शिव 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 शंभू शिव 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 शंभू
शिव 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 शंभो.
Anything to get you away from here. Anything to get you away from here. And even sometimes while you're here, do anything to keep you from really, putting your heart in the fire. It is there. It's fine.
Sometimes it even seems like the devil just wears the cosmic,
Yes.
costume of nearest.
Yes. That's how you come to know that there is a force like that for sure. That is working constantly to deviate and to direct your attention away from this. And why it must be, people say, oh, why it must be like this? Because the discovery is so, the gift is too big for just a regular human mind. You have to transcend. Cannot be given. It says that don't throw the pearls to the pigs. Have the attitude of putting everything on the fire.
Guruji, before you went to India, you said something that really struck me in this interview that we had for this book, Life That Happens. Some want to go God's pace, not their pace. And it speaks to me because somehow it seems like in my own unfolding, and you yourself have said it, it's a slow cook, But I'm not satisfied with that anymore. I'm open for everything to come that can tear down whatever is still remaining of a construct, of a personal construct. Because yesterday evening I was sharing something that, even though the feeling of presence is here, and still somehow some agent on a very subtle level is listening too. And that must be what you call the mix of presence with person. That somehow something is also listening on the side and then try to come the back door to sabotage something. So I just want to put everything to the front.
It is important to point out that there is a force that is very, very subtle, a very subtle aspect of mind that is trying to pull the carpet out from underneath you. But only for as long as you bear an identity. The power of the inquiry is that it plunges you, leaves you back in a place behind which there's nothing. And when you come to that, you don't have to go out sniping at the enemy, you don't have to do that. You only have to know your true place. And all of that is gone. All of that is gone. That is the beauty of inquiry. I have to say, it is the beauty of it, because it is not. It's not merely belief or trust. Those play their part, But when true, perfect understanding awakens inside, all the idiosyncrasies and the strangenesses of the person and the ego and all of that is nowhere to be found. It's nowhere. It's another dimension, that's another realm somewhere. And you have not created, you've not made something up. It's not that you're believing some technique. It is so totally complete. There's nothing else known to man, not even drugs or nothing like this. that can really reveal so powerfully the unreality of the, just of phenomenality, we can see. And yet it's continued to play our dynamic role as people and with all our variety and so on. But it doesn't, there's no offense there, there's nothing there, no poison is in it anymore. because you see it as also the great waves, the waves just passing, the clouds just passing us. And there's a beauty in it. You don't see it like, oh, it's just passing. No, there's beauty in it, there's ugliness in it, but these things don't touch the unreachable, the untouchable. Okay. This is what you find. If you stay in the realm of the person, you shoot one, another one come up. You see, like this, Maybe they get weaker and weaker as they go, and then you think, wow, they're getting weaker and weaker as they go, and then suddenly it's got to get strong again, or whatever. Very unreliable, because you are never finished until you come completely back into the heart, totally empty of identity, empty of identity. And the mind perceives that to be a very, very,
This is Sinara.
Sinara. Oh, come. The mind perceives it as a terrible thing. The idea of not having a particular location and any specifics. Hi, darling. Oh, you made it, huh? Make it all the way. Make it all the way to you.
In this translation, it is very, very. It was satsang for me also, because it was very obvious that when this identification comes, it unclears something. It's kind of brings something on the way that isn't allowed to flow, and the translation itself, or what is happening, and yes, some part of me just kind of sometimes just really just give up, because I cannot give much attention to these things, but it's still like coming and going back. It's like a bit intermittent sometimes, because he's like almost wants to get involved, and other wants to just come back to this emptiness where it's completely detached, but still doubts the sensitivity of that. And it is important also in the expression or what I'm saying. It feels like they're still trying to find a balance between being just empty and not identifying, but at the same time.
If the mind doesn't come into it, there is no imbalance experience.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
As soon as mind come, the person come, then judgments will come. And then when the judgments come, you already are working with weaknesses. It begins to weaken your vessel, You start to feel weak. And this is why I refer so much to the great emptiness, the great space. Because it is beyond such contrasts as weak or strong or successful or failure, nothing. It's not there. And there's a noticing that it's simply just flowing, and things are seen with a very all-encompassingness in terms of the way that you perceive. The mind is very panoramic in its openness now. It's very different, you see. So you're not even being informed from a book, you see, but just somehow just arising out of the space, things become clear. And it can be playful also. It can be playful. It doesn't have to be serious, It's not, sometimes serious, sometimes playful. It's whatever it will be. But there's no one behind there, putting up the lights and setting up the scene. It's just so perfect,
Guruji.
I want to expose also actually. When I was listening to the translation of Shankari, there was something saying like, why is she not translating everything? It seemed like she was holding back a little bit, and yeah, because of what you just bring up now. And so there was a judgment, but then I was actually looking at it inside, because I realized that
It must be hard to translate also.
what came up for me is like I'm doing exactly this with these invitations that I've been hesitant to bring them forward to you, because there was not a judgment but more like a feeling like, okay, you know, like it's too difficult, Guruji is too busy. Like I was putting my own projections in this without just being empty, so I just felt to express it. For in that moment it came as a sort of insight, like, my God, I've been so involved in this.
What is so clear, actually, and you are perhaps only here seeing it in such a clear light, is how much your person doesn't work.
Exactly. And even and Satu was saying something that was not translated, and it is true, and it's also satsang, because I kind of get used to not listen so much to the person, and some things automatically are really dismissed. But when I'm translating, I cannot dismiss it in a words, and that's what happened. Something just didn't register to translate them, and it appears, and it is true that I'm not translating every single word, because it's like my being is not registering. But I realized that, and then I tried to make an effort to listen proper, and not identify.
What has happened very often is that people, at a certain point, the best translators have been people who completely forgot themselves.
Yes.
It has happened. We have had a few like this, where it's just almost with the same time as I'm speaking. It's kind of like going like this, you know, because the person brings time and interferes and slows things down, and then begins to interpret rather than translate. And interpreting can be more difficult. Just translate is just kind of like, it just goes, and especially when it comes out of this emptiness, you know. So, as I said, you know, when I really push you back towards the empty space, you must look at what it is that's causing this sense of holding on to something. Because, as I said, I was just saying just now, that you begin to see that the person doesn't work. It doesn't. It interferes. It intrudes. It is not really contributing really anything of high value to your interactions. Mostly it gets in the way with little judgments, little hesitations, little resistances, and other kind of sidetracking thinking and so on. So this, it seems, that's what is taking the time. This love-hate relationship with the ego self, and keep returning back just through habit and conditioning, and holding some image, some self-image, that something then tries to be faithful to that image or something like that. So, because it is clear enough in the space, in the emptiness, that the absence of the person is a tremendous, you know, auspiciousness. So beautiful when the person doesn't get in, always coming in with a past and references and reasons and evidence and, you know, explanations as to why the life is like, you know, and it's just so boring. You see? And the person imagines that other persons are interested in their person. Which is a big mistake, because people are not really that, you know. Sometimes the person is only interested in their person because the person gives, the sense of the person gives them some receptacle to you know, belch out their nonsense, and then in turn then you have to listen to some other person's nonsense. Very often. And you'll only really know this as you come more and more into your heart again. Because the less there is of you personally, is the more complete there is of you in your wholeness. You never can be free of this, because it's the thing that we love most is the power and the light and the presence of the self. It is that is generating love. But then we give it to the person and think if the person goes, then I'm going to lose all this beauty and so on. Whereas you're only losing all your delusions. So I don't know if it is courage that is needed, or more true introspection to really look, to have the courage to really look, and don't stop. Don't cut off your introspections prematurely, or when things begin to really break open. Because you come to a stage as you begin to look and you see, you come to some sense of a block, and you can just hold to the self and keep looking into it. You will feel sometimes you start to feel that this yawning, this coming out. This is a significant thing, because very often those tensions and those resistances, those suppressions, they come out like this. This is one of the graceful ways they come. They sometimes come out through coughing and sneezing and screaming, so they can come. But normally when you're doing your introspections, you'll come to a point and you hold to the self and something, you're looking and you're feeling this sense of stuckness, and you feel this movement come. And what it does is it brings again back the atmosphere of peace and openness, replaces a certain tension you've been carrying or wearing for some time. You see? And of course now I say this thing, then your mind goes, haha, you didn't yawn, so you didn't. So sometimes I have to say things to you that then I know the mind is waiting, haha, yes, like this, and when something you go kind of, oh, that was a good one. Whatever. But how I am going to tell you. You see, I say this because sometimes even in holy places, in churches or so on like that, you see people like this, and people used to tell you, don't do this and don't do that, because they've completely got it wrong. They didn't see that it is the expression of grace. It was the presence of the Holy Spirit. It was a feeling of real stillness. It was pushing out the tensions. It was kind of like, fading out the tensions and the resistances and the delusions, and they were just being evicted in such a beautiful way, a very beautiful way. You see? And so there are many things like this. As they come, sometimes I don't want to talk about them, because people are very interested, and then somehow the mind catch hold. But at a certain point, you must transcend, and you lose the fear of your mind, even its trickiness. It can only be tricky if you are trickable, or when you are identified personally. Then the mind is aroused. That kind of psychological, tensions, they come. But you stay as the self. I should be able to say now, just stay as the self, and no further explanation is needed, because just the uttering of this, then somehow something switches, and the whole way of looking is just somehow so distant immediately. Until now, after a certain point, it doesn't take any effort, because you're never out of it. You're never out of it. And so throughout your conscious state, when I say that it's like if you're in a fever state, your whole conscious state becomes like the fever state. As you are conscious, intuitively you are the self. They're the same. It's not an extra step to take. You are the self, you see.
All these tensions.
You were saying? Yeah.
Some time ago, a beautiful alertness has arisen, whereby the mind can be recognized in its arising, in its very first arising, and it doesn't have pull. It doesn't have
one of these arisings where at a certain point after some days that it should be, like it said, it should be effortless. It should be effortless. While I feel not a strain but a constant alertness, a constant vigilance, and I felt this it should be effortless as the same mischievous voice, but I want your words about it.
Yeah. It will become as effortless as the fragrance of a flower takes no effort to be smelt. You see? the flower is not squeezing out, it's not pressing some fragrance. They just emerges out of it like that. We have to remember that what we call mind, whether it's in the form of thought or sensations or whatever, it arises and it has no solidity, has no real tangibility. It arises just like a cloud, and its nature is to float by until you identify. When you identify, you solidify it somehow and give it weight. And then also by further interest, it is as though you press save and it gets joined in somehow. If you don't energize it by your interest or identity with it, it doesn't register. At the end of the day, it's not on your account. It has never happened. You see? So only those that you connect and you have an identification with them, and all the identifications are always personal. So if you are not responding to or relating to mind from any personal place, you see, there's no registration that is anything called that thought ever even occur to you. Because it needs identity, it needs interest, belief. This is what triggers thinking and then make it into something more concrete or something more sticky. So throughout the day, you may say, potentially, so many of these waves, they arise and so on, you see. And the arising of them doesn't amount to thinking. The thinking begins when identity connects with these thoughts and then begin to roll into some form of a sentence, become a paragraph, and a paragraph becomes a whole story and so on. And you can watch that. And even that in itself is not a big deal, you know. If even throughout the storytelling, you are aware, like we use the metaphor of the fever state, that whatever you're doing is arising in a fever state. Now, when you're in the fever state, you don't tell yourself, listen, I'm in the fever state. It's just automatically known. In the same way as the self, you just come to know that all these things, that the good and the bad, the this and thatness of things, they're all just the ephemeral, cloud forms of thoughts and sensations. And it's okay. You don't have any kind of heavy judgment about those. You enjoy some, and others you may feel you don't care for their taste. But because you're not doing business, they don't register, you see. So your enjoyment is very clear. It's very clean. It doesn't leave any footprints on the consciousness. It doesn't leave behind any bad smell. And the more you are looking in this way, the more you come to love, because you love this state, actually. As you become more accustomed to being in that state of presence, or, like this, you somehow can't leave it because it's such joy. It's such joy. At a certain point, to be again in thought, in personal thought, becomes very irritating for you. So it means that you have little tolerance for those kind of thoughts. So all these things are just the way that the consciousness is refining itself like that, and very, very naturally. Easy. So even you spoke about kind of like an alertness, a soft vigilance and things like this. Yeah, all these things play their part in the right time for a while. You see? And even sometimes you are talk about directing your attention and watch the attention and this type of thing. Only for a while, because they're still phenomenal. They're in the more sattvic realm of phenomenality, meaning that they're in the high grade phenomenality. You see? But from the ultimate place, it's gradeless, So nothing contributes to it. It is alone shining, like the sun need no favors from either the clouds or the sky or the moon or other planets. It doesn't affect it at all. So this sentience, which is our source and self, it does not need to keep itself going. It doesn't need to be vigilant and to remember itself and nothing like this. These are all in the realm of phenomenality, and at the different phases of phenomenality. Phase where it's still attended by strong identification sometimes, and strong and weak, the kind of pulse of perception, waves of perception and so on. Or in the sattvic stage where you're almost constantly just aware of presence. And then at a certain point that even this sense of aware of presence is completely so light, it has no weight. You see, it's there automatically. Has everybody eaten? Yes. Better go and eat. Thank you.
पार्वती शंभु पार्वती शंभु
Parvati Shambho Parvati Shambho
पार्वती शंभु पार्वती शंभु
Parvati Shambho Parvati Shambho
Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva 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 Shambho Shiva Shiva